Okay, folks, so this week's course is the Highlands Golf and Sports Club at Fisher Mountain, West Virginia. So this place is definitely just far enough to be a little bit worrisome as a drive out of DC. But I want to get into a couple things before I start talking about the course itself directly. And one of the big things that you have to deal with on the way to this course is exactly how to get there. Now, I did have some debate between myself and my GPS. I knew I didn't want to ride all the way off the tip of I-66 where it intersects with I-81 and head way around to the west and then come down to the course. I mean, I knew that was going to be a pain in the butt. But when you're driving down I-81 towards Harrisburg, and then after that is then you get 33 going west. 33 goes west out past JMU, and then it goes across the mountains, the George Washington National Forest. You have to go north from there to get to the course. When you're looking at all these traces and stuff in your GPS, it does look like going down 81 and then up northwest on 33 and then back up to the course is the long way around the barn. But believe me, trust me, I did this both ways. I went down there, and let me tell you, that took me forever. And it was the most tedious drive. Plus, I still hit the highway that goes all the way out to Deep Creek. And I would swear it took at least 2.5 hours just to do that. Then to take 66 back, which was at least another hour. And so you're going to spend time no matter how you do it. But I would say that you want to spend most of your time on the highway and driving through some of the fun roads in West Virginia, at like half an hour to an hour at the most. Not spend 2 hours driving through some weird back roads in West Virginia and then an hour on 66 to get back home. That's not the way I would want to do it. And I can definitely tell you that having driven out there the way I went the first time was much better than how I came back. So let's talk about the course. Number one, the course is a big course, big mountain valley course. And this was one of those courses that I absolutely regretted taking a cell phone out there to take the pictures, because all the pictures had so much noise reduction and they had so much loss of detail that only when the sun broke through the clouds when I got there, it was overcast, and it was overcast a lot of the day. But there were times when the sun did actually break through. The difference between the pictures I took when the sun was breaking through the clouds and the light was good, and the pictures that I took when it was not, when it was overcast, are dramatic. You can see a dramatic reduction in noise reduction and a dramatic increase in color and fine detail. And I so much wish that I had taken at least a decent 4/3 camera out there, but I did not. I made a major mistake, and it will not happen again. It was just a bad combination of a really big course, trying to take landscape shots with a cell phone. Lose, fail, not the way to go. Not at all. Even the focus wasn't good on about 10% of the pictures that I took, and it was just not. I mean, I'm showing the better shots out of all the shots I took. I took about 70 shots. Unfortunately, none of them were really outstanding, but they are what they are. And so leaves were out in color, not too many leaves down on the course. The greens were in good condition, had a decent mix of speed, a decent mix of a slope and size and everything, nice greens. But what kind of really threw me at first was just not matching the distances of my shot. I mean, everything was I had a lot of trouble finding balls because the balls would land somewhere. I would see them land. I'd say, okay, the ball landed here, here, here. And then I go out there and look for it, and routinely the ball is 50 yards past where I thought it was. And I realized it wasn't that I couldn't see it land, it's that it wasn't stopping. It was just bounce, 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 run, and even though the green, the rough was decent, it was definitely decent rough, thick enough that you had to be on top of the ball to see it. It wasn't thick enough to hide the ball. And so if you got away from that rough where it was just, pine needles or something like that, it was just going to keep bouncing. And certainly by the time it got to a tree, it was going to have flown quite a ways. And it took me about 3 or 4 holes to realize that I was getting at least 20% more distance on my shots than I thought it was. And that was cool. By the time I figured it out, it was fine, no problem. I had some good shots. I had some not so good shots, but the good shots outweighed the not so good shots. The course has some tree cover that does come into play when you're hitting cut shots or draws, and so you really have to make a choice between taking a risky shot around or over a tree with a cut versus taking a risky shot with a draw. And what's the danger of the draw versus the danger of the cut, and you have to play intelligently. So okay, fine, if you can hit the ball 250 yards straight down the center of the fairway, that's fine. But there's definitely some holes where you don't have a straight shot that's very good, and you might want to play with a little English. But there are also a lot of shots where you do have a straight shot that's good, and you can really just kind of hang it out there and let it do its thing. So it does have a good mixture of open holes and let's say holes with some peril off the tee that you have to worry about. But I think the front side was much better than the back. The back side was okay. It wasn't a bad course, but it helps to get the course map. The course map, of course, is not on the scorecard. So when you go there, if you go to play this course, make sure to ask for both the course map and the scorecard when you're in the clubhouse, because they don't have them on the tee boxes. Probably because it was so windy up there or whatever, you just don't have them out there. So I thought it was a good round. I mean, I thought it was a refreshing change of pace, lots of sky, lots of trees out in the distance, things that, not really the most picturesque scenery, but still mountains in the distance and so forth. And they have a nice lake there, which is an interesting hole, number 10, and so forth. And it gives you an opportunity to go out there and hit big shots, bright shots, challenging shots, all these kind of things. I thought it was a really nice course. It wasn't the world's best course for one real reason. I think was a big problem with it is a lot of times the cart path was cutting across the fairway in front of the green, or it would peel off to the left away from the green. It never really went up to the green. And sometimes that's fine. A lot of times it's fine that the green is 20, 30, 40 yards behind the cart path after the cart path pulled away to the left, for instance. But sometimes it's a pain in the ass, and sometimes the cart path would curve around behind the green, and they have a tee box to the right of the green, And so it just was a little goofy in that regard. And I think I got to the point where, like, on the 16th or 17th, 16th is this dogleg right, and the cart path peels away from the green on the right side. But it's a blind shot. You can't really see the green until you get pretty much right in front of it. And then the 17th tee box is, for the black tees, it's way up this hill, back from the cart path, and you end up having a hike, up there. It's not like a big thing, but it's just like I did it a couple of times because I thought I'd forgotten my camera in the car, and sure enough, it was in my back pocket. I had to go back up there, take the shot, hit my tee shot, walk down to the cart, walk down to the green, play the green. And even though I drove the green, I still hit a 3-putt, just stupid stuff. And by the time you get to the point where you're happily making the shots that you want to make and so forth, that's nice. The 10th hole comes at a good time. The 9th hole comes at a good time. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 come at a good time. And 12 is nice. 12 is a really nice downhill straightaway par 4. I think 13 and 14 were more or less forgettable. They were nice dog legs, but I guess 13, it's 12 that's a dog leg. No, 12 is a straight downhill par 4, then 13 is a dog leg, and 14 is straight back towards the clubhouse, and then 15 is another dog leg, and then 16 is another dog leg, and then 17 is this downhill par 3, and then 18 is another dog leg. And dog legs are really kind of a weird kind of hole to play, and it doesn't necessarily work all that well when you have a lot of tree cover off the tee, and they're a little bit of a little bit of annoying, a little bit of a letdown and so forth. But I honestly felt like by the time I played the 16th hole, I kind of had my fill of the course, and I was thinking more about the drive home than anything else. I think it's an advantage to know the course, to have played it once, because it really does have enough going on in it that you really want to have at least that course map when you play and be aware of it. And it also helps not to have to drive 3.5 hours to get home after you played the round. So, and I guess that would be a good reason to play it during the summer, or the early fall as opposed to late fall, or at least to get there early. I mean, it's just not really a good thing to do. I'm on the road at 8:30 in the morning. I get to the clubhouse at 11:45. I'm on the course. I'm off the course in about 3 hours to play the round, 3.5 hours at the most. And then I got to drive back, and I get back home at like 8 o'clock. There was a lot about that I didn't really want to do. I'll be honest with you. And I was apprehensive about it from the moment I saw that course in golf. And I was like, well, I don't know if I really want to do that. But I am always curious about a slope 140 plus course. If you tell me it's a slope 140 plus course, I will probably do what it takes to get out there and play that course. And I'm glad I went out there and played this course. I definitely will be getting a better camera, so I can say it is definitely at least once worth playing, and that fits right into my idiom. At least one time going out there, driving out there, seeing what the course is all about, and playing it and coming back. I would not want to do that on a weekly basis, and that's why I didn't do it last week. But driving to that course in I think it's Upper Baltimore County, in Finktown or whatever it was, the course that I played last week, that was still a pain. There is no easy way to drive to a course north of Baltimore from where I live. I mean, you have to drive out to either Frederick, or you have to drive out to Baltimore itself, then across Baltimore, then up in the in the whatever of North Baltimore. It's just not like right there. It's not like driving to Pine Ridge or something where you drive around the Baltimore Beltway and 10 minutes later you're at Pine Ridge. You still have to drive a good way up into the upper part of Maryland if you're going to play a course up there. Greystone, whatever, is up 83. You gotta get off 83 and then come back around to get to the course. That's like 20 minutes of driving these local roads in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's a great thing to have these courses out there, but I do recognize the conflict inherent in driving to them. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand that point. And that's what makes courses in Pennsylvania, if you're not talking about driving right over the line, Lancaster maybe at the most or something, when you start talking about going to central Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh or Allentown or something like that, that is drive. That's a drive. Okay. I might be able to get to Allentown in 3 hours. It's still 3 hours of hustling my ass to get out there. And what I really want is to have 2 hours of casual driving, not 4 hours of racing. Anyway, so this course, I definitely would give it a solid, I'll give it a B+. It was a good course. I wouldn't say it was a great course. I'd say it's at the lower end of the B+ range. Definitely at the lower mid part of the B+ range. And the reason is because you just don't see a lot of really good valley courses like this one. This one, it wasn't great. I wouldn't sell my firstborn to play this course, but it was definitely a good course. It was good. Not too easy, not too hard, not too much, not too long. It just fit right in that sweet spot. It was definitely worth going to play. That is I'm going to say the golf course at Fisher Mountain. I know it's got Homestead or something like that in front of it, and that'll all be in the description. I think I could compare this to a lot of other courses that are nearby. There are definitely courses that I passed on the way out there, but I still think this was worth the drive. I certainly think that it was a good enough course to be worth a 3 hour drive. And so I'll give it a B+ for that.